Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. I just want to talk to you today, first of all, about a bit of a SIA ethos, believe, belong, and become. I have a firm belief. My belonging is strong, but I struggle with becoming. So I'm here today, just becoming. Bear with me while I just become. Thank you, ASEA, for helping me to become. I want to talk with you today about a very simple subject. We discuss it often, but it is about vision, but not just about your vision, but about the vision for those you enroll in this business. On a church wall in Sussex, England, is a quote: "A vision without a task is but a dream. A task without a vision is drudgery. A vision and a task are the hope of the world." I want to ask you a question today. What is your intended legacy? I'm not talking about just what's your vision just for this business or what's your vision for 5 or 10 years, but what intended legacy do you have? Do your passions and activities line up with that legacy? Do you help others identify and name their intended legacy? And do you help others develop a plan to achieve their end goals? When Corey called and asked me to present at Envision, I knew I couldn't say no, but I didn't know what to talk about. And I talked with him. He said, "What are your passions? Where do you spend your time? What activities do you engage in?" So I hung up the phone and I was a little bit distraught because, quite frankly, I had not purposely identified my goals, my visions, maybe goals for next year, the next year, but not long-term goals, not a vision, and certainly not an intended legacy. So I had to think long and hard about that. Again, thank you, Corey, for pushing me in that direction. So first of all, I identified my passions. I am passionate about heaven, about life hereafter. So passionate that I can talk with the mother of a daughter who has a daughter taking her final breaths, and I can do it without reservation because I'm that passionate. I am passionate about this hunk of burning love right here. I guess you can understand that. I'm chuckling, I'm laughing, but indeed, this man right here is my husband, and he is my rock. He is my cheerleader, and I've come up with a new little word. He's my human mainstay. He is a man above most men, and when you can live with someone and still say that, you have to know it's true. I'm passionate about him. I'm passionate about my children and my grandchildren, all 8 children, 4 spouses, 16 grandchildren, and I am passionate about my friends, sometimes loyal to a fault. I am also passionate about, you guessed it, ASEA. I can share it whenever, wherever, with whomever, and once again, I have no reservations. It is part of who I am. It is part of what I believe in. I am also passionate about, I know, as sick as it sounds, I'm passionate about cleaning. I love it. More than that, I like things when they are clean. So I ran across and went through some of my passions. But with all due respect, even to the people I've just mentioned, my passions help to fulfill my purpose maybe, but they are not my purpose. When I started to think about what my long-range purpose is, what legacy I wanted to leave when my days here were over, my thoughts immediately went to this man, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to who he might be. Yes, it's my daddy. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He was smart. He was driven. He was a genius businessman. He could work the real estate market like few others. He was also, because of that, harsh. He could be very hard. He did not understand why everyone else was not as driven as he was. He just thought everybody else should get with it and be just like him. But I never could figure out where his drive came from. Yeah, he wanted to take care of us. Even when he was in hospice, he said, I got to go to work. I got grandchildren to educate. He was just that driven. He was indeed driven. I don't know another word for it. But I didn't realize until after he left this earth that he had an intended legacy, and he went for it with everything in him. And it looked something like this. Since his passing, I had always heard how he bought foreclosed homes. He would sometimes buy them at the courthouse steps. Sometimes he would buy them ahead of time and prevent foreclosure. But what I didn't know was that oftentimes he would allow the families to stay in those homes free of charge until they could get back on their feet. He would help them to do that. He didn't need the accolades of men. Had he needed that, I would have known that while he was still alive. One day, I'd heard about missionaries. I'd heard about him loving to do work for missionaries. But after he was gone, I heard how he would send money to a missionary, and he would tell them, if you tell anybody I sent you any money, I won't send you any more. Again, his intention was not to be honored by men here on this earth. One day I was on Facebook, and this photo came across my Facebook. A lady that I hadn't seen in many years was in Hyderabad, India, and found pictures of my dad, found his name on a Bible school where he had funded the building of that Bible school. We never knew. He didn't even need our accolades. He just didn't need it. Just this year, I was having lunch with some of my ASEA associates and a former pastor missionary that I had not seen in 50 years. And he said, I want to share a story about your dad. Well, I kind of cringed because he was also my neighbor, and I didn't know but that he was going to share some of my dad's radical discipline, which, for example, he found my brother smoking one time and made him smoke 3 cigars. Needless to say, my brother's 58 years old today and does not smoke, but I had no idea what this man was going to tell us. So he went on to say that in 1970, he went to Argentina and arrived there to, his words, pigsty, chicken coop, horrid living conditions at the Bible school. So he said, I went to the local building supply store. I gathered up all the supplies to build adequate housing, and I went to the owner of the store. He said, when do you need this delivered? And I said, this afternoon. He said, sir, we don't extend credit. So this missionary, Mr. Vernelson, said, I went back to the Bible school to discover a way to try to work it out to put my car up for collateral. And when I got there, I opened the mail, and there was a letter from your dad that said, God told me to send this to you. And it was for the exact same amount of the bill at the building supply store for $5,000. Mr. Vernelson said, your dad saved the Bible school that day. So while none of us really understood all of his drive, he never, ever, ever shared all of that with us. He truly had an intended legacy, and did he fulfill it? You bet he did. He went with it with blinders on. You just as well get out of his way. He doesn't have any time for foolishness. I've got to get the job done. And he did it without sharing. He fulfilled his intended legacy. But with all due respect to my daddy, I wish he would have done one more thing. I wish he would have sat down with us, his children, and taught us the importance of having not just a goal, not just a vision, but an intended legacy, and that he would have worked with us to establish miniature goals to reach that. So I say that to you today to tell you this. It is irresponsible to enroll someone in this business and leave them on their own. We might as well be saying, it's about me, it's not about you. I need to reach another rank this week. I need to help my upline get to another level. It is never should be our intent to do that. It should be to do what is best for the person we've enrolled and to help them and walk them through this. So I'm going to give you a few steps that may not be exactly what you would do, but just to give you a guide to develop your own. So the first thing I suggest when you enroll someone is to schedule a time to sit down with them. For me, it takes about 2 hours. Now, if it's someone who just wants to be a product user, you're not going to do that. You're going to put their name on your calendar, however you keep up with it, and you're going to call them in 4 to 6 weeks and see how things are going. But for people who are interested in the business, sit down with them. And when you sit down with them, have a list of resources you believe will contribute to their success. I do know that the virtual office is the safest, most current, it's ever evolving, but it's a safe, compliant place to send everyone. You may have a favorite Facebook page. You may have a favorite website. You may just love the charge-up calls, but have a list of several things when you meet with them, but don't throw it all at them. Hold on to it while you listen and encourage them to identify their goals, listen to what their goals are. And while you're doing that, listen and assess their needs. What do they need to get to those goals? If you have someone who wants to be in the presidential level, that's fantastic. If they've never done network marketing and they're newbies, you will likely know their needs more than they will. So you're going to work with that zeal, but you're going to help them establish miniature goals to get to the next goal. Obviously, they need to know how to get to Director and Director 300 before they can move on. But just listen. It's mostly about listening. After that, you're able to provide them some of the things they need. But then assure them that you are there to help them. Not to do it for them, but to help them. Let them know, I will be here. I will work as hard as you will. I will do as much as you will do. I will teach you. And just as we have our own children, parents have children, they raise them, they teach them, they help them. Hopefully, you're not still feeding them baby food when they're 5 years old. You continue to help them to progress. That's the concept I'm talking about. At the same time, we as parents, we set limits. So be honest with your new associate about your limits. Let them know what you can do, the extent to which you will go, which is different for everyone. Some people are still doing the business part-time. If you're not, if you're doing it full-time, fine and good. You have a lot more to offer. You have more time that you can put in. But be honest. Don't promise what you can't keep up and what you won't follow through with. And be honest with them about your limitations as far as the business. We're always learning. And it makes them comfortable. It puts them at ease when they know, wow, she doesn't know it all either. It's very obvious with me that I don't know it all, but it makes your people feel comfortable. So be honest with them. Also, teach each one to reach one. Edify them. Show belief in them. Let them know that you know they can do it, because anyone can reach one. And the last point that I'd like to make that I want you to remember, and if you grow your business large enough, you will learn how to do this sooner or later. And hopefully we do this with our children that we raise, humans. Know when to push them out of that nest. Now, actually, eagles do not push their eaglets out of the nest, but they coax them. They encourage them to come a little further away from the nest for their feedings. And that's exactly what we have to do with our associates. We have to begin to push them out on their own. And you will know when someone is stuck in a quagmire and they're not moving forward. And it's going to be up to you to say, you can do this. I don't think you need to rely on me for that. But when you do that and they're pushed out of the nest, there is hardly anything more beautiful than taking a new associate and watching him move from dependence to interdependence to independence. and then watching them take another associate and move them from dependence to interdependence to independence. It's a beautiful, priceless thing. So let's all think about that when we bring someone in. Know your vision, have your goals established, help them to understand the importance of having goals and identifying their goals, of making steps to reach those goals. Don't leave them to their own vices. In other words, what we would say in the South is, honey, if you're going to birth them, be willing to raise them.